Greetings everyone, and welcome to Team Yume Gamecast, which is a concept I came out with since last time, and this concept was all about basically discussing a video game while footage from said game was going to play in the background. We're only at the second episode and already I'm going to be forced to completely change the rules just for such an occasion, because I am not going to show footage from the game we're going to discuss tonight. I will explain why in a moment, but before that, I have to apologize to Devar here.
Yes.
For making him play this game without actually properly prepare him for what he was going to face. So I'm sorry, Devar, that I had you play this game, but I was actually trying to prove a point.
Oh, don't be.
About it. So yes, everything shall be explained in due time.
Oh, yes. We shall explain this in due time, indeed. Especially the fact it took me an entire week to play the game.
Yes, for better and for worse. Well, mostly for worse. For worse and worse her. Let's go with that.
Especially since I couldn't get to my computer one day.
I actually thought, we've been tweeting about this game the whole week in preparation for this podcast, by the way. And at that point, I thought he wasn't able to get to his computer because he needed an actual physical break from that game of at least 24 hours because it was such a daunting, exhausting, and emotionally draining experience.
Oh, no. It was actually because decorating was going on in the house and I couldn't get to it because there was a bunch of junk in the room.
Well, isn't that fascinating? Anyway, Team Yume Gamecast. Tonight. Oh, we started this so well. Tonight we're going to discuss a little free-to-play RPG Maker 2D game by the title of Wadanohara and the Great Blue Sea.
Created by one person called Mogeko, I believe it's called.
Well, if you go into the end credits of the game, I think he goes by the name of Deep Sea Prisoner, which I liked more. Anyway, this is a free-to-play game, and like I said, an RPG Maker game, which ideally it would put it in the same category of games such as Ib and The Witch's House, which were all horror games. This one, however, is not exactly a horror game, or at least not entirely a horror game. It's actually a JRPG, and I know what you're thinking. Oh my, RPG Maker actually used to make an RPG? Where is the world coming to?
Oh, yes. RPG, using the term very broadly, this is.
Yes, it's not exactly a good one, but hey, it's free to play, so... Oh, you know what? We're going to complain about it aloud. It doesn't matter if it's free to play or not, it's just
there.
Not very good. But before that... Alright, so I still have to explain why there is not going to be any game footage shown off on this Gamecast. And I also have to explain why I had Devar to play this game completely blind, without any prior information to it. Because yes, I forced Devar to play this game without telling him anything about it. I just said to Devar, "Hey Devar, play this game. Done." And we're going to review it.
Yes, it just dumped it on me. It was like, "Hey Devar, you gotta review this, thanks, bye."
Yes, pretty much. Me, on the other hand, I sort of knew, or to be more specific, I sort of had an idea of what was I going to expect from this game. And let me tell you, having an idea beforehand of what this game was going to be about did not prepare me in the slightest for what it actually came down to. And I can only imagine how Devar felt in that regard.
Oh, to be honest, I had suspicions, but...
Yes, well, of course, your internet friend, me, dumps you a game you know nothing about and tell you, "Play it," preceded by a couple of ellipses. You know something's up. This game. Alright, it's story time.
Yes, I believe it is time for a little story from a sea witch.
Actually, before that, this is the story of how I came to know about this game, and please bear with me because it's not a short story.
Uh-oh.
And it's also a rather convoluted one, come to think of it.
Get the popcorn, folks. Make a sandwich, whatever you need to do.
Right, so I am subscribed to a YouTube gamer by the name of Cryotic, which I might have mentioned to Devar a couple of times in private conversations.
Yeah, you have.
Now, this person one day started to play this game, Wadanohara and the Great Blue Sea. He posted the first video of a multiple parts playthrough. Now, at the very beginning of said video, he said that this game was effectively a RPG Maker horror game. Because somebody told him this game was a horror game. He also said that this game had a twist that started off slowly and rather unremarkably, but then a twist happens that changes the entire complexion of the game. It changes the tone and it changes really everything you know or you thought you knew about the game up until that point. Which is kind of a spoiler, but also kind of it isn't. So really it's the best kind of spoiler. It gets you curious about something, you still don't know what exactly you're going to be curious about it. And that's how they get you, man!
Yes, they get you hook, line, and sinker.
So anyway, Cryotic played this game for half an hour, which was the first part of his multiple parts playthrough. And I am hammering this on the table, like this, for a good reason, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
So he played this game, and it didn't look like a horror at all. It looked like a pretty average JRPG affair, which featured whimsical elements such as fish swimming in the sea with life preservers, witches, anthropomorphic animals, and a really not inspired design, level design in general, and so on and so forth. It didn't seem to have anything remarkable to it. So, the next day, I was expecting rather eagerly a second part for this multiple parts playthrough. I am curious now. I want to see more of this game. So, like I said, I was expecting a second episode. I did not get a second episode.
Okay.
From Cryotic. Cry for short. What I did get instead was a video in which Cry explained why he was not going to continue this playthrough. Not only that, he also explained that he was going to actually remove the first episode of his playthrough from his YouTube channel. In fact, if you go look to his YouTube channel right now, that video is no longer there. So, that doesn't bode well, I thought to myself.
Nope.
So then he said that the reason why he's not going to continue this playthrough is because apparently at some point the author of the game itself had requested to not put any more videos about this game on YouTube, to not show any more footage of this video on YouTube. And the reason why the author has requested that, apparently, it's because he has received death threats about some of the content of this game.
Oh my gosh, I wasn't expecting that.
From people who played it.
Really?
Yes. Some people who played this game were so taken aback by the content of this game that they actually decided to send death threats to the author. Now, I don't condone this kind of behavior whatsoever.
No, I don't either.
This is nothing but overreaction that's about as gratuitous as anything on the internet. And everyone gets so outraged so easily on the internet to begin with. It's outrageous in its own right. But here's the thing. After playing the game, from start to finish, I get it. Now, let me explain also something to you. Cryotic is not a small-time YouTuber. He's a big-time YouTuber. He has over 2 million subscribers. When a guy as big as him decides to avoid playing a game to avoid further controversies attached to said game.
That just makes you more curious.
Exactly. In fact, in the description of the video in which he announced the discontinuation of this playthrough, there was the link from which you can download the game. So I downloaded the game and I played it for myself. And here we are.
Oh, yep, here we are. Except my story is not as complex.
No, because his story is basically, like I said before, I told him to play this so we can review it. So this is the reason why I am not going to showcase any footage of the game on this Gamecast, to respect the wishes of the author.
Yeah, probably for the best considering. I mean, jeez.
Although all the content that he was being threatened over all happened basically in the third
part.
In the last third of the game, let's say.
Yeah.
After the twist happens, and after the tone changes completely.
We'll get to that, though.
Let's actually talk about this game, Wadanohara and the Great Blue Sea. Story-wise, what it is all about. Devar?
Okay. So the story starts off as your typical story of where someone meets a witch and they tell the story of a sea witch that lives in the sea, sort of thing. And it doesn't start off on the best of ways, because you swear you've seen this before, because you got all these cute little characters starting on a ship. There's Wadanohara, who is a sea witch.
Yes.
And you meet her friends, who is Memoka, or Memoka, who is a seagull, well, an anthropomorphic seagull, Dolphy, who is an anthropomorphic dolphin, and Fukami, who is a anthropomorphic octopus.
Among all these familiars, because they are the witches' familiars, Fukami is the only one you will bother remembering.
And
for all the wrong reasons, I might add.
Oh yes. Do not be surprised at two things. One, do not mistake them for ghosts, like I did.
Really?
I mistook them for ghosts because everyone was white. I was like thinking, why is everyone ghosts on this ship?
Why was everyone so pale in this game?
I have no idea.
For that matter, you know what infuriates me about this game?
What?
Okay, let me tell you this. I actually liked the character design in this game, generally speaking, and the pixel artworks of the characters, once they get a close-up, are really, really good. Actually, I want to say. There are several moments in which you have a close-up of the characters whenever the story demands it, at which point we get to see a really well-done pixelated artwork. Not so much when it comes to the environment per se, but that's another argument.
Yeah.
What actually enrages me is that up until I completed that game, I thought Fukami, the octopus familiar, was a girl, like everyone else.
That's the second thing I was going to say. Do not mistake certain characters for a certain gender, because I did that with Dolphy.
Really?
I thought Dolphy was a boy.
No, I thought everyone in that party was a girl. I mean, I thought Fukami was a girl because, well, the name sounded female, Fukami, but I was mistaken.
Yeah.
And also, his model is pretty much the same as the other characters, which are all female. And that furthered my confusion. And it's not like gender is not important. No, the gender of this character is very important, because it explains his conflict, which is a very subtle conflict, I have to say. It was mostly left to interpretation, which I liked. That he always had a crush on Wadanohara, and he was jealous on this other shark boy, because there is a guy who's a shark.
Who doesn't look like Squall, my ass.
Yes! I was about to say, that guy, which his name is
Samakichi.
He takes fashion tips from Squall Leonhard from Final Fantasy VIII. He wears the stereotypical bad boy jacket with the
fluffy white, and also has a necklace thing that looks like an anchor instead of a lion head.
Alright, so that character is the main love interest of the game. And of course he acts like a jerk for most of it, because he was hiding something and he really wanted to protect Wadanohara, but he couldn't say because Because of actually really good reasons for once.
Yes, yeah, very good reasons. But you've seen it before, though.
Yes, every character you see in this game, you've seen it before in some form of a archetype or a stereotype or whatever.
Or from a different movie, different anime, yada yada.
Yes. But like I said, I really like the character design, generally speaking. I am mad about the Fukami incident, let's go with that. But nonetheless, I really like the artwork of the character.
I actually will say the artwork is gorgeous.
Only of the characters do. The levels are poorly designed, usually.
And copy-pasted.
Sometimes you see a negative color or reversed color version of the same stage to add a stage for the sake of adding a stage.
Yeah, pretty much.
But as poorly designed as the levels are, they're nothing compared to the design of the game itself, the game mechanics, or lack thereof, if you will.
Yes, let me tell this because I think it's funny.
Please do.
Because I went into this game, I was told it was an RPG game.
Yes, made with RPG Maker, which is still shocking.
So I was expecting one of two things. Either A, there would be random battles, or B, I would see the enemies on the map, which I saw, on the sea, because we could get to control a ship. And I was thinking, oh, this is cool. And I get to walk into enemies, and suddenly it's like, it hits me. Why aren't I going to battle yet? I'm like bashing into this guy. I have no idea what it was at first, because it looked like a blobby belly in the middle of the sea on a life preserver. And then I push the confirm button to find I'm in battle.
Yes.
So the game decides to be the most lenient it can with you for no reason.
Actually, I'm super thankful that this game has an option to avoid battle by simply deciding not to click on the enemies.
Oh, no. I'm going to basically say I'm thankful for that as well, considering they lit them everywhere. But the problem is, they don't explain it. They didn't say this would happen. I checked the manual. They didn't say how to, start a battle.
Yes, but you know what? Considering the rest of the game, that's actually the most brilliant...
That's a minor.
No, that's actually the most brilliant move design-wise, because...
Yeah.
Considering how much later on the game tends to completely litter the screen with tons of enemies, that you have to literally learn to maneuver around in order to get from one screen to another, which is ridiculous. Imagine if you didn't have the option of just selecting their fights manually and you would just enter a battle automatically as soon as you hit them with your character. You would be still playing this game.
Yeah, so like I said...
And the saddest thing is, you don't actually need to fight any of the enemies in this game. Aside from the bosses, which are obligatory, because this is the single most unchallenging, simplistic JRPG ever made.
Yeah.
And it is so easy, and it is so profoundly unsatisfying. You can literally, I'm using the word literally a lot, by the way, you can literally win every fight by selecting the auto battle mode. That's unheard of!
I know, that was pretty dumb, isn't it? It's like, this is obviously not the game's strongest point, though. It's like...
No, the game's weakest point is the game itself!
So, already, you go into the game, and it's like the most merest thing you've ever played, the most dullest thing. I'm surprised.
It's the most unremarkable JRPG I've ever played in my life.
To be honest, if I was anybody else, I would have quit, but because it's me, and I'm curious about things, I can't just let it go, and kinda also, for sub-reasons, Madhog asked me to play it, but...
Now, tell me honestly, would you actually have bothered to play this game past the first hour of it?
Can I be deadly honest here?
Yes?
I would, but not as fast. I would literally come back to it every so often, just because, well, I like the art style. That's all I would come back for.
Yes, but here's the problem. You would have played this game so rarely, you would have forgotten immediately about the story, and you would not remember what was going on when you would pick up the game again.
Yeah.
And even if the story turns out to be really interesting, which it was at the end of it for a JRPG, you wouldn't be invested in it. Because you were not invested in the game itself, in what the game had to offer from a gameplay standpoint. And if you're not invested in the gameplay, then you're not invested in the stakes that the game has to offer, then you cannot be invested in the character, because if you're easily winning all your fights in auto mode, you can't have interest in the story, because you do not have interest for the gameplay.
Let's put it this way. In order to make a story feel worth it, you have to earn it.
If the game is too easy, to the point you don't even need to actually play it, then you're not going to be invested in the story it wants you to get invested. In fact, let's talk about the most glaring aspect of this completely unremarkable JRPG experience. You do not need, like I said before, you do not need to fight any of the enemies that are littering the screen. You need only to fight the bosses. Why? Because this game is so easy, you're an invincible powerhouse at level 15! And you can get easily to level 15 by just fighting the bosses, which are so easy, and they're all affected by status effects. And each of your playable characters, which is Wadanohara and her familiars, and her three familiars, are chock full of powerful moves, special moves that can cause status effects. The only boss that gave me a teensy little bit of a challenge was that squid monster, that giant squid towards the end of it. And by challenge, I mean he had a lucky shot that took out the character with the least amount of HP, which is the dolphin girl.
Yes, Dolphy.
But I still owned him in less than 2 rounds.
Yes, 2 to 3 rounds, they're dead.
This is...
that doesn't inspire much, does it, folks?
That's terrible. But then again, it's a free-to-play game. In a free-to-play game, you usually don't have expectations when it comes to effort. Except you kind of have with RPG Maker games because of games such as The Witch's House and Ib, which were all beautifully designed masterpieces. But here's the thing.
Those were just exploration horrors, though.
Here's the most baffling aspect of this game, which is going to be a major point of contention for me. It had effort in it. Like we said, we like the pixel artwork.
Yes,
and,
that's the best part about it.
Yes, especially during certain dramatic scenes, and there is a little bit of animation too.
Yeah, that's shocking. There's small animation, that's nice touches like that.
Yes, and also we have the story itself, which becomes really interesting after the twist and the tonal shift. And even the level design becomes much more interesting after the change of the tone. So really, it baffles me this, because there is effort in this game. It's just completely inconsistent. And that's what confuses me the most. It's like the author of this game focused all of his talent in 3 small specific aspects of the game, and then forgot to actually make it a good game in the basic game mechanic design part of the game. That's why I'm complaining so ferociously, because I see effort put in this game. It's just only in specific areas as opposed to others that were actually far more important.
But I'm gonna say this. This RPG makes Final Fantasy Mystic Quest look like a full-fledged RPG that's very complicated. I said it. People think Mystic Quest was the most easiest Final Fantasy game RPG you can get on the market.
Let me put it this way. Mystic Quest is Bloodborne compared to Wadanohara and the Great Blue Sea in terms of challenge.
The only difference is Wadanohara is free, while Mystic Quest costed money at the time. That brings me to a point that I kind of have a love-hate relation with right now.
Yes.
Because there's this thing, you know how in RPGs you get to explore the areas, you get to enjoy just going around, talk to anyone you want, which is completely pointless, by the way, except for...
Yes, completely pointless. Don't do that.
Yes, you're wasting your time, unless you're specified to look for someone in particular, then it's pointless to talk to the NPCs. You can just skip them. But that's not the problem. My problem is that the game holds your hand so tightly by some sort of mysterious tightened rope around your hand and literally drags you away from places you're not supposed to be at. So this either comes in the form of A, red arrows pointing to go in this house, to B, some mysterious dialogue box saying, not this way. Nope, we can't go this way. Because the point of RPGs, you're supposed to be able to explore your surroundings, within reason, of course, because there's a rare occasion where places will be blocked by guards or people, or there's construction, but...
Clearly the game wants you to go to the interesting part as fast as possible.
And that's why I deem it my love-hate thing. I'm glad, I got through the game faster because of it, but it went against my inner adventurer. If that makes any sense to anyone.
Your inner adventurer despised the very idea of playing a game without having any freedom of exploration whatsoever. Then again, you've seen the places you had to go to. It doesn't seem like it's worth exploring to begin with. At some point, I grew so bored by this game that I started to nitpick every single aspect of it, almost unconsciously. For example, let's talk about the freaking equipping items, which sent me into a rage like you have no idea.
Oh god, the equipment.
Alright, so every single piece of equipment, by the way, all the characters you play get the same type of equipment. There is no room for personal customization or personal items that only one character can use. Everybody gets the same stuff, which is already bad. But here's how they get said stuff. They're all inside treasure chests. Every treasure chest Wadanohara comes across is full of 4 versions of the same equipable item that you can equip your characters, and you can do that every single time you pick them up. All together, all 4 of them, all 4 variants of them, in every treasure chest you come across. And it gets old real fast. Oh, and by the way, there is a shop in town where you can buy items that you will never need to use because you'll never die in this game. You can win with auto mode.
Yes, you'd be surprised the shop is still in business.
And what is the deal with the completely arbitrary items you get? At the beginning of the game you have candy swords, and then at some point you get, as an actual weapon, you get raw fish.
Oh yeah.
And apparently said raw fish is more powerful than a sword.
Can we also talk about how one of the items you get for a helmet is a ball gag?
Do we want to talk about the fact that according to this game, ink, freaking ink, is a more powerful armor than golden armor?
What type of moon logic, Sierra logic, or...
Discworld
What type of Discworld logic are we in?
I don't know, but you know what actually downright made me consider rage quitting this game?
Well, oh my gosh, what?
Okay, so you know how towards the final third of the game, this bunny kingdom of bunnies basically invades the subterranean city in which our heroine lives in, which is the sea of the title that she's trying to save, and because she is the sea witch, she has the duty of protecting the sea and whatnot. So this race of bunny people attacks, and they have a princess among them, and her father is a mechanical bunny head.
Oh gosh, that scene.
Okay, so there are also demons among these bunnies, because they were mercenaries hired by said kingdom in order to facilitate an invasion of the subterranean kingdom. Okay.
Yes.
One of the demons has the absolutely worst name that I've ever heard in my entire life. It was the most insultingly stupid name ever uttered, written, or conceived by human mind. And it was so infuriating that I was about to throw my computer outside the window. I was literally screaming at the screen of my computer in absolute blind fury. And do you want to know what this character's name is?
Oh, please tell the audience at home.
His name was Vendetto.
Vendetto.
Get it? It's like vendetta, but with an
O.
With an O instead of an A at the end of it. It's the male version of vendetta. Vendetto. That is the dumbest thing ever. That is the dumbest.
The first time I read that name, I laughed for ages.
I yelled in fury and rage and outrage, because you know what? I'm Italian, so we have the word vendetta in our vocabulary. So that was double insulting to my intelligence.
Oh gosh. Oh, that's so awful. You know what made me want to consider quitting, actually, but
What?
decide against it just because I was too curious.
What?
It's the scene where basically everyone's showing, obvious bile and hatred to the Sea Kingdom, and witches, and suddenly the king, who is a robotic bunny head, is all like, "Oh, I don't have anything against them. I'm just so into this," and it's like that character really sucks the seriousness out of the scene.
Oh, no. You know what actually sucks the seriousness out of the whole predicament with the invasion of the bunny kingdom? If, the fact that you're actually fighting bunnies doesn't already suck the seriousness completely out of you, is how it ends. The real problem.
Oh, no.
They get to the palace of the sea princess.
Who is called Princess Uomi.
Yes, and I call her Princess Dead Fish Eyes.
For obvious reasons.
Because that's literally her gimmick. She has dead fish eyes. Her outfit is basically a dead fish
mouth around her neck.
So, Princess What's-Her-Face Bunny Ears gets to the actual palace. And by the way, I can already tell that palace was inspired by the legend of Urashimataru. If you don't know the legend, well, look it up. It's a classic in Japanese folklore. So, Princess Uomi saves the day by coming out of her room
and talking to her.
Talking some sense into the crazy tsundere princess. And then she hugs her.
Hug it out!
They literally hug it out. They hug and make up.
And cry. Well,
and cry.
Only one side cries.
Well, I'm sorry that I invaded your kingdom and killed half of your populace, because they were literally dead fish littering the streets, by the way, during this invasion. But now that we cleared the misunderstanding, we are friends again, and everything is fine and peachy.
Dandy.
Okay, I actually like the fact that the seagull familiar, of all the characters, is the one pointing out the idiocy of this.
Yeah, and yet Wadanohara basically has the gall to basically like, shush her.
No, she was right! Don't shush her! She's the only character who knows what's going on here.
She only one that has sense, apparently.
Yes. So, by the way,
Oh, by the way, Dolphy, half her dialogue is going to be scary sharks.
Yes, their familiars are pretty much one-note characters, really. It seems all the character development or the interesting character traits were reserved for Wadanohara and
Fukami, slightly.
And Samekichi, the shark boy, which is the main love interest, and he has a secret, obviously. Also, yes, let's not forget about Wadanohara's mother figure,
Tatsumiya.
Tatsumiya. I actually like Tatsumiya.
Yeah, Tatsumiya is actually quite a good character, I think.
Tatsumiya used to be the familiar of Wadanohara's father, which was the original sea warlock?
Yeah, sea sorcerer or...
The sea sorcerer, and protected the kingdom from Princess Uomi's deranged sister who tried to take over. He managed to banish the princess along with all of her followers into an alternative dimension, which we're going to call Hell for simplicity, and because it pretty much is.
Even though it's called the Dead Sea, which is also on the nose.
Pretty much on the nose for all the good reasons. But in doing so, Wadanohara's father also took his life.
And he became a pearl in the sea. Well, a moon pearl.
Okay, he became a giant pearl that looms above the palace of Princess Uomi, which looks like the moon, but it's not. Wadanohara, on the other hand, was born from an egg.
Which confuses a lot of people.
I'm theorizing that Tatsumiya, other than being the mother figure, is also the one who actually laid the egg, which would make her literally her mother.
Yeah, I actually theorize that's her mother.
But I don't see any reason why it should be a secret, honestly.
Yeah, I don't either.
There are several good, nice emotional moments between Wadanohara and Tatsumiya throughout the game, at which point I was expecting Tatsumiya to betray her, because I kind of had it in my mind that the twist was going to be that Tatsumiya is actually a traitor, and she's going to betray everyone. And I was right on the fact that there was going to be a traitor, but it was not going to be Tatsumiya, the traitor.
To be honest, I actually had it in my mind's eye that I actually kept on thinking, you're the traitor. No, you're the traitor. You're definitely going to be the traitor.
Okay, but as it turns out, the twist itself is not actually the interesting part. Everything that comes after that revelation is what really makes the game memorable, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
Okay, so up until this point we've been dissecting and deconstructing and pretty much complaining.
Bastardizing.
About everything that's wrong with the game. Everything that fails. Basic elements of game mechanics, really.
Well, we have said some things that they did right.
We also established that neither of us would have bothered to play this game past the first hour had we not had something to look forward. Me, it was all the hype. You, it was all the cryptic way that I just handed the game to you.
Well, that and plus the cute artwork.
So, really, if you think about it, the only reason why people will actually bother to play this game is because they would know beforehand that there was going to be a twist, and they will be curious about it. Which brings me to a topic that I wanted to talk about. Something that really annoys me at a fundamental level. This mentality that some portions of the industry of entertainment has, that shock value can be a substitute to actual quality. This idea that if you shock the audience, if you manage to produce something that, while completely average, still has this one element that shocks you, that's completely gratuitous about it, then you will make your product memorable and it will sell because of that. And there are a fair few examples that I could reference in that regard. Instead, I'm going to reference one of the most infamous examples that I can think of right now.
And I think I know what that one is.
Master of Martial Arts.
Yeah, I had it. I thought you were going to say that.
Master of Martial Arts was a 5 episodes long OVA series produced by the same company of Ikitosen, which is a fairly infamous fighting girls series, which means lots of fan service, lots of bare-chested fan service of that variety, lots of bootylicious fan service, with the excuse and the falsehood of women empowerment plastered all over it, because it's basically hot girls fighting each other. The lowest of the lowest common denominator in terms of male entertainment. Now, Master of Martial Arts, for 4 episodes, looked like a below average, zero budget, badly written, inferior version of Ikitozen. And again, it seems like the kind of product nobody would have cared about. It would have been forgotten in the tides of time, if it wasn't for the 5th episode, in which a twist happens, and the tone shifts and changes completely, and it gets dark, it gets downright disturbing, and it gets shocking, and it completely contradicts whatever expectations the audience had about this show to begin with. That is a quintessential example of shock value. It's completely gratuitous, it comes out of nowhere, and in terms of narrative, it doesn't really make sense with the story up until that point. It exists for the sole purpose of shocking and disturbing people, as I said. And the sad part is that it worked, because now Master of Martial Arts is actually pretty infamous. And by being infamous because of this ending, it actually sold. It actually got around by word of mouth, or the internet equivalent of word of mouth. And they had people reviewing this, and they had people reacting to this, and that garnered even more popularity. And that's how this kind of products work. Like I said, the idea of shock value replacing quality and effort. There are stories that are able to convey a twist which is followed by a tonal shift in a way that actually not only makes sense with the narrative up until that point, but it doesn't come out of nowhere, and it has actual substance behind it. Master of Martial Arts was just a really low quality, no effort whatsoever kind of product that has this one element that's completely gratuitous, and that's the reason why it's remembered.
Remembered for all the wrong reasons.
Exactly, but it doesn't matter, because that's how these things are successful. Because they shock you. So they're really not worth getting
worked up over.
Now, it's usually really easy to distinguish shock value for the sake of shock value versus shocking twists and revelation that have actually thought and substance behind them.
And actually serve the story in some way.
Yes, but in the specific case of Wadanohara, the twist and the subsequent tonal shift that occurs in the last third of its game, it's actually more hard to determine if it was completely gratuitous or if it had meaning and substance. And the reason for that is not because, well, of tonal inconsistency, because, well, on one hand you could think that what actually happens in the last third of this game really don't belong in the same game in which you fight fish on life preservers and bunnies. But on the other hand, the big change was actually heavily foreshadowed throughout the game. There are several moments in which Wadanohara seems to remember something specific that happened to her in her past, and you have small bits and flashes and memories that imply that something horrible happened, and something horrible is going to happen again. You just know it's coming. You don't know when it's coming, you don't know what it's coming, but it's coming. And that's actually kind of the best foreshadowing you can have in your story. When it suggests something important happens, but it's vague enough, you don't know how actually bad it can get. And really, you could also argue that the generally whimsical tone that this game has throughout the majority of it, minus the occasional pulse of pixelated blood and gore, you don't expect the tone to change so dramatically when it actually changes. So since you were used to this whimsical tone beforehand, then it will only be more effective in that manner. It is shocking for all the right reasons, that's what you might think. But then again, the effort put in this game is so inconsistent that you don't actually know for certain, for absolute certainty, that what you're witnessing is gratuitous or actually well thought out. Because to get to the part, you had to go through that freaking lame gameplay mechanics. And you know, after the change, after the tonal change, you're still playing the same unremarkable JRPG. Nothing has changed in that regard, except you actually want to see how this thing ends, because you're curious to see how much worse things can get at that point. And they will get more worse.
Yeah, so
I can assure you.
it definitely did. But, like I was going to say then, when you say it like that, it's like the same room, except you painted a different color coat of paint.
Okay, you might actually think that the fact that you're playing such an easy and an unsatisfying JRPG is actually the way of the game to lure you into a false sense of security. That's what I was thinking at the time. I thought, okay, when the twist happens and the tone changes inevitably,
then things will get difficult, right?
That things will get difficult, and this will no longer be an actual RPG. So the gameplay will change completely. But no, you're still playing that really easy JRPG you can beat in auto mode, even after the twist that changes the entire perspective of the game. So really, in that regard, it doesn't seem worth it. Even though, from a narrative standpoint, whatever happens towards the end of the game is functional, it's memorable, it's horrifying and disturbing, and it leads to some genuinely emotional, dramatic moments.
Which are really strong, by the way, especially between characters.
Yes, you still, in the back of your mind, you're still thinking, do they deserve to be in this game? And you're thinking that. You're thinking,
this could be in a better game.
Do they deserve to be in this game? Do they feel like they belong in this game? Or do they feel like they are gratuitous? They feel they are gratuitous because, again, the effort that was put in this game is so lackluster. I do not have a problem with the tonal consistency of it. The tonal shift was heavily foreshadowed. It doesn't come out of nowhere. I have a problem with the consistency that was put in the effort. Because there was effort put in the narrative and art, in the horrifying and disturbing, nightmare-fueling imagery that would appear at some point, but there was not effort put in anything else.
Yeah.
So because the effort is so inconsistent, it's hard to determine if this game is lazy and gratuitous or deep and meaningful. It's like a combination of both, but it's really abysmal because of that. This is a game that I want to like for what it gets done right, but I can't fully like because half of it, at the very least half of it, is just so unfulfilling. And one really good element does not automatically rescue it from being imperfect.
No, it definitely doesn't. I felt the same way about it, really. Just, I really, really wanted to like the story and its characters, but though, mind you, saying that, when you really look deep into the entire cast, a lot of them are throwaways.
The only characters you're going to care about, and they're going to be significant, are like five in total, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to say, but among these five, two of the characters you're playing this entire game with are not among them.
Yeah, and let's also say that...
In fact, should we talk about the freaking Orca guy?
Oh gosh, I've researched this, and it's not a very good tradition for this game creator to have, if this is true.
Okay, but before that, let's talk about this Orca guy. At some point during this game, this guy pops out, which is an Orca guy, and he beats up the shark boy, Samekichi, for no adequately explained reason. He just likes to bullying sharks. Then he tries to fight off and eat our main protagonist, which she proceeds to beat him. Unless you ever lose, in which case you see the first of two bad ends.
Yeah.
Of this game, which is her getting eaten alive.
Yeah, that's a nice imagery to read when you're halfway through this game, isn't it?
But here's the kicker. Here's what really gets me. You'd think that this guy is actually one of the main villains.
Nope.
But no, he was just strolling around. He was literally an orca on a stroll. He was a red herring, and then he shows up a second time to help out the good guys, and then he's just there. He doesn't contribute anything to the story. He doesn't belong in the story. He has nothing to do with anything. Why is he in this game?
From my research on this orca guy, from what I gathered, if this is true, I would need to see his other games in order to know. But apparently there's a tradition in the creator's game series where he has characters that are passerbys. It is not a good tradition if this is true.
If this were to be a more fleshed out universe and more fleshed out narrative, I could buy that, but this just comes out of nowhere. It's completely out of the blue. The blue sea?
Yes. But his part in the plot just feels Deus Ex Machina for
No, it doesn't have any part!
Tatsumiya.
It doesn't have any part in the plot!
But it's...
Anything! It's just...
But he did save Tatsumiya. That's the only thing he was there for.
Yes, and then the game alludes possible shipping between the two for some reason.
Which is ridiculous.
Which is absolutely ridiculous, but you know what? It doesn't really matter. It's just, he's there. It's just an orca on a stroll. Nothing more, nothing less. Do you know how insulting that feels?
Yes, that is very insulting. Right next to one-time villains that get killed, who act like as if they're supposed to have a main point in the game, and have some meaningful moment or meaningful motivation, ends up becoming moot because they die in like 5 minutes. Great villains, everybody. They make these bosses look like typical soldiers that cannon fodder from any series you could come across.
Which is too bad, because I'd say the main villain of the story, as it turns out to be, might actually be the most legitimately scary, horrifying,
spine-shivering,
downright
disgusting,
creepy, despicable and disgusting villain in any game we ever played.
Oh.
Even counting that guy from Corpse Party that likes to chase little girls around. You know the one.
Yes, if you're a fan of Corpse Party, everyone knows.
Which, incidentally, was also an RPG Maker game.
Which then got popular and put on the PSP.
Yes, that's the version most people will play. So, okay. So, should we actually, summon the courage to talk, to finally address and talk about what happens in the last third of the game?
Yes, let's dissect the disgusting elephant in the room, shall we?
Yes, okay, but before that.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a trigger warning, everyone.
Yes, I was gonna say, we should give a trigger warning to this.
Okay, here's the trigger warning. This part of the conversation has all of the triggers. All of them. Okay? You think of a trigger, you think of something you're sensible towards, this part has them all, okay? Triggers all over the place. Here, over there, down there, behind the bar.
And right...
Behind you, the bar!
And it's right in your room right now, folks.
Yes, watching you.
The triggers are watching you.
Heavily briefing. Triggers everywhere. This is the biggest trigger warning I ever had to give anywhere. In fact, you know what?
It's worse than Discworld. Trigger warnings.
What did Discworld have that was so disturbing?
Oh,
yeah, the tentacle rape.
Yeah, it's worse than that.
That was nothing.
That was tame compared to this.
In fact, I might actually go as far as to say that this part of the game might actually be the most horrifying, the most terrifying, the most downright disturbing thing ever put in any video game. Let's make a deal with our audience, Devar.
Yes, okay.
Okay, here's the deal.
which one's the devil, then of us.
Up until now, you've heard our opinion of this game. You know what we think about this game. We enlisted the flaws and the qualities. We discussed about this game aplenty. We review it, basically. The review is over, okay? The review is finished as we speak. We're done reviewing the game, okay? So, unless you are 100% sure you want to hear us talk in full spoilerish glory about the third part of this game, unless you want us to actually go into graphic details about it, stop the video now. If you're curious about this game, I'll put a link in the description. Go play it yourself if you dare.
Yes, play this game at your own risk, not only for the dullness, but for also the heavy themes.
Heavy stuff.
The heavy themes. Very disturbing.
Very disturbing in all of the ways that could possibly be disturbing. So, this is your last final warning. Now we get to the spoilers.
And we can discuss